Hey, okay. So this part of the video will discuss the site registration and how that happens. Ideally, we would have a web UI front end that will allow and basically mask the need to go into these API calls to create accounts. Now, here's how this works. It's pretty much a three-step process, and that's these particular three APIs. So a little background for this, not only will we be noticing the creation of a participant in the demo environment, but we will also note that this process will create a correlated entry in the asterisk database. So here's the information for asterisk. And let's go ahead and see if we can get logged in here real quick. I'm doing this here now so that go ahead and ignore this warning. I'm using MySQL Workbench. And all right, let's see if I can execute. I think I don't need that. See if I could execute this guy. All right. So here now, in this query, we can see how there's all these 2000 series, 3000 series, I call them thousands even though they're not, the 500 series, 5000 series, and this is what I use mostly on the demo environment. I've also introduced a 6000 series on the Strax for our friends at Embedded 360. So I want you to understand how this will work. So let's go and begin with the need to make a REST call. I use a Mac native app called Paw to make this call, but essentially here for the post, I will type in demo.strax.co, API participant request, and then here's the payload. It's JSON, application JSON, and that's the important part. Just note that the acceptance type and content type are both application JSON. For now, let's create a user called, let's make this on Strax, and we can remove it. And I'll call this user1 at msys.com, right? And let's put them in the 7000 series. And the access code, let's go ahead and hard code this as 1, 2, 3, 4 for now. Now, we should be ready to submit this for the creation process. But just really quick, and since we're doing this on strax.co, let me open that guy up. And let me go to the participant. That's actually right here. Let me close this guy out. Give a moment for this guy to come up. Participants. All right. So what we'll probably notice is the creation of a new participant. The last one we see here is 31. So if we do this right, there'll be a 32. So let's go ahead and leave this guy up. And let's go ahead and trigger this. So it says participant profile created. Let's refresh this page. And as expected, a 32 was created. And user1 at msys.com. And the fidget for 7001. Now, step. So let's go back to Paul and go to verify participant. Again, strax.co and verify. And let's call this guy, it was user1 at msys.com, right? So let's see if we can still get that right. msys.com. And the fidget doc ID was supposed to be 7001 series. Access code was 1234. So if we do this right, Let's just double check real quick. Yes, user wanted MSys. If we do this right, then it should be a 200 OK. So let's do that. And so we went from registration status requested to, let's move on to verified. So registration status now changed from requested to verified. And again, it's been a while since I've done this, so I'm going to just double check real quick if I think it might be the third step, which is the registration portion. Yes, I think this is what's going to create the corresponding entries in the MySQL database. So this was msys.com, and it was 7000 series. I'm leaving the password as care team, and you can change the color code here. Access code is 1234. If this is good, then this should work. And we got a 200 OK here. So let's go back and refresh this guy. So here, so we're now registered. Now, you could probably put primary in the payload. Make sure you modify this. Also, is online should probably be changed to true, and is location shared. Probably set both of these guys to true, and you can do that in the payload of the JSON body. But let's go back to the MySQL workbench and refresh this guy. And going all the way down, and you see, and there we have. This is the new entry. These four of these entries represent one participant, so that's important. And you would notice that this is actually the same object ID that was in Mongo, right? The 56BA ends with 442. Let's go back in here under MySQL Workbench. 56BA and ends with 442, right? Now, just FYI, what we've done in the past is we've essentially changed this number. We've manually changed it to 7001, right? So we can do that. And that's how we've done this. There you go. So this is not ideal. Hopefully, if we have a web front end, there's not going to be a need to do this. But this is just showing you how we have modified this information so that it would be easy to correlate and match and troubleshoot. So now that we've changed this to the 7000 series, let me go ahead and go back to RoboMongo. And what I'll do is edit the document. And obviously, this is what we changed, so might as well take this 7000 series. And I try to keep that consistent all the way across. So also, you could put a last name, first name. You could look at, see, this only had 10 fields, but you could look at something that has more fields. You could see, you could add more fields and just make it a little better. Again, this is probably something that the web team needs to look at more. But essentially, let's just refresh this guy and see if we can pull out the 7001 series. Where are you? Let me refresh. Oh, you see what happened there? So this is a new change we made. This is not updating to 7 series, and this is because user1@msys.com is considered now a duplicate. So the proper way to do this actually is, let me go ahead and correct this again. All right, now that that's corrected, I'm going to copy everything. And then I actually have to delete this particular document and then insert this series and then refresh. And now we have the 7000 series user 1. So that was a little bit of a sanity check we added to prevent duplication. And duplication would have occurred because I was trying to create a 7000 series with the same user ID that was already being used by the previous Mongo object ID. All right, so that's an interesting hurdle. But now that this participant's done, you'd have to go and associate this person's fidget. Since there wasn't I think we set up this guy to use a fidget for 7000 series, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see, fidgets. Yeah, see, now I could potentially just edit this, and rather than assign this to a brand new fidget ID, right, I could probably just use an existing one. I don't know, something in the 5000 series, because we know that we've got that fidget ID out there, right? No, we don't actually. So let's use this Chris Jack one, the 3000 series. So let me go back out here, and we're going to change this to 3, right? So now this user will now have the be a part of the fidget of the 3000 series, right? Chris Jack. So he's going to be part of the team that tracks Chris Jack. Okay. Another thing to keep track of is the gear associated. So this is already done. If we were creating a new 7000 series, then I would need to go and add a gear, and the gear would have the 7000 series, and I would have to go to gears, right? And there's no 7000 series here. Then I would have to create a new one. How would I do that? I would just go ahead and essentially edit, change this to, I'll change this to 7, right? 7, 7, I'll copy all of this and insert a new document, right? And then paste that. And then what I'll have is essentially a new participant that is assigned to a new gear, right? And just by the way, the gear should have a serial ID right here. Now this serial ID is what is used by the web simulator, right? So when you go to the web simulator right here, and you choose a telemetry of some kind, so this serial number is the one that's under the Sprout DB collection called Gears. And so what you do is you open up the fidget gear that is in question, you change the gear type, right? So that's how that works. I think that mostly covers it. Now under the Strax database collection, there may be a participant opt-in. Yes. So you have to create something for notifications to go through on SafeTrax. So it's not just a Sprout. It's not just the Sprout DB. You have to create something for the participant in here, right? For the events to notifications to work properly. So what you would do essentially is, let's edit the document, right? And let's just select this guy. Let's go ahead and see if we can create a new document. And let's go ahead and paste this guy, and then we'll change this to 7. And the fidget ID will leave as 3, remember, because we didn't want to create a new fidget. And the participant ID is 7. And actually it's 1 at the end. So, and all of this, and so the email actually was going to be user1@msys.com. And here you could set options for the email opt-ins, SMS opt-ins, phone opt-ins. And oh, by the way, when this person, whoever this person will be, if they register their phone, when they log in on the phone with their email address, then the platform will grab the UDID and plug that here. If they had an Android, it'll plug their ID there, and if it's an iPhone. So one nice thing you can do is just clear out these guys. There's no harm. And just go ahead and save that. Let's refresh it real quick. And this is, so we now have a capability to have somebody logged in on a phone And when you log in on the phone, then if it's an Android or an iPhone, then either of these two device IDs should get populated, right? And that's another way you can verify if notifications will come through. Because if there's any trouble on the platform, then these things will not get populated, and probably you'll be able to trap the problem in the storm logs. So I think that just about covers how the registration process works and how they're interlinked on the back end. Hope this video helps shed some light on how the data model interfaces with the APIs with respect to registration. Okay, so thank you.